everybody. Welcome to the Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darragh MacAnthony, chairman and co-owner of Championship side Peterborough United. Now, just a quick reference, we're hopefully publishing this if Henry gets to work tonight on Tuesday so that it goes out live before transfer deadline, so that all the things that we talk about deadline day aren't already out of date by the time it goes out on Wednesday. So you got a busy week ahead of you this week, Darragh.
Yeah, listen, welcome all. Great to hear from you all. Listen, guys, fantastic following. Our podcast is up by 30% episodes, in season 2. So we're building a nice little cult following. Really excited about that. Continue to share, continue to make all the positive, comments and reviews. And I believe we went live on Amazon. They now have like a whole podcast area. So, really appreciate for that. Yeah, busy week, Philip. Well, be a busy day today and tomorrow. I mean, I'm already a little bit exhausted. It's only what time is it on a Monday here? It's 1:00. So I've been at it since 8 this morning. Yeah. And if my phone rings during the recording, we'll have to obviously pause or I'll have to take it. So unfortunately, we're at that stage now where phones have to be answered. You could be recording a podcast, you could be banging your missus, you have to answer the phone.
It's the difference between getting a deal done and losing to the next guy.
You're absolutely correct. So yeah, it's going to be a bit like that the next 48 hours. So I am, and I believe one of the guys at our club is doing a little behind the scenes thing with Baz, and he wanted to follow me around, but I'm going to Sky tomorrow. I was like, listen, I'm not sure I'll be very entertaining to follow around, but I'm sure Baz will be, and you can, if there's any phone calls between me and him, great, you can put them on there. I'll have to watch my P's and Q's if I'm calling any agents pricks and players any carrots.
not while the camera's rolling.
Yeah, no, the camera's rolling, exactly right. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's we're obviously hoping to do another deal. We've been that elusive final central midfielder, to complete our set. And that's been a real labour of love, throughout the summer. And to be fair, we've always had this particular target, but it's always been dependent on the club and the Premier League signing players, which I believe is happening. So, look, I'm really confident by the time the podcast is out tomorrow, it'll be done. I don't want to talk out of school. I don't want to name any clubs because that's unprofessional. And I don't want any media listening trying to name any clubs because I don't want to upset the club that we've done a deal with. The issue will be, and this is where it could go out the window, if they don't bring in and get the players they're doing, then we're left basically on to, again, plan B, C, and D. We've obviously worked on a few other plans just in case, over the last week. But again, we couldn't wait on them, and they chose other clubs. Do you know what I mean? So, which is fair enough. This is football. So if we get that, we'll be happy. We're trying to maybe add one more piece. It's not the end of the world. Look, our primary target's a central midfielder to join the group, which will leave us then with Jack Taylor, George Grant, and Norburn. And then you would have Kyle Barker as our fifth, who's like an under-21 who's done 5 pre-season. So that would give us, we're hoping and looking, Ethan Hamilton will move on in this window. We've had inquiries, bids, and obviously another player possibly on loan, which levels things up. With it's good business. Do you know what I mean? With the player coming in, with the wages going out, that's how you go right. So we'd be very happy with our squad if we end the window adding that central midfielder. I know everyone's screaming for a striker, but strikers, I've said this before, they're a bit like dinosaurs. They're rare to find, and good ones are, and good ones have a premium. And we already have a strike force of Marriott, Dembele, Clark Harris. Ricky's obviously out for a couple of months. And our whole emphasis the next 2 weeks is getting all of them fit. Hopefully Dembele hasn't left by the end of the window. I'm positive that won't happen unless something disastrous happens last minute with a ridiculous bid. Because I think he's important in what we're doing. But if something ridiculous happens, we've always promised him that he would go, and if it's right for us. So we've been inquiring and putting bits out there that if anything happened, we could react to that. If not, we have to go with what we've got. This is what it is. We've had a really good window. We've signed some really good players. We haven't seen the best of the players we've signed yet. You'll see more of that, in weeks and months to come. So yeah, that's where we are as a football club. It's easy to go out and sign 2, 3, 4, 5 players, but that's panic. There is no need for that. They're not going to fit in your squad. We had players were leaving off the bench the other night. It's you can't get everyone in. And I think people were worried. There was people calling me out about why aren't we signing another centre back? Because Beavers is out, obviously. for a period of time. I think he's out for another 4 games. And we had a conversation about it. We looked at it, we analysed it, and we looked at it and went, well, look, we have, we play with 3 centre halves. We have Kent, we have obviously Nathan Thompson, we have Josh Knight, we have Ronnie Edwards, and the manager played against West Brom, Dan Butler, as a left side centre half, and he was fucking fabulous. And it gave us great balance because you had Burrows at wing back with a left foot, and Butler there. And Dan forget about the goal in the last second. I don't blame him for that. That was just, Harrison fell over, they broke. Butler was on his heels, and obviously Phillips got the cross in. I don't blame Dan. It was what happened after the cross. We didn't defend the running player in. It was a centre back to score, but we'll get to that in a minute. So we looked at it and went, look, if we bring another centre, we also have a centre half in the under-21. So if we bring another centre half in, you could end up with 6, and again, the numbers don't work, and you're going to have players missing. They're not going to get in the squad on match day, and it's keep people happy. Beavers is back in 4 games. It's kind of like, well, now why are you signing a centre half?
Yeah, it's not like he's out till Christmas.
No, exactly. And he's a fit boy, and yes, it's a bad hamstring one, but he's already recovering well. So it's kind of like we feel, and I know our fans were before the West Brom game. You need a tall centre half. You need this. Well, as I showed against West Brom, no. What we need is time, and we need to back and support the players we have and let them grow into the role. They get better defensively. Yes, everyone wants to have 6'5" centre halves, but we kind of play out with the ball. So it's not a lot of 6'5" centre halves play out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're not mobile.
They're not mobile. They're just defenders. So look, I'll trust the manager. If he wanted a centre half, I said to him we would bring one in. We had our eyes on one, but he didn't. He was like, look, let's just focus on the central midfield. And if anything happens that's affordable to do something up the pitch in a striker role, just in case, possibly that. But that's unlikely because, again, like I said to you, clubs are, I say they're being unreasonable with some of the demands. I'll be the same, so I can't judge anyone's price on a player. At the end of the day, that's the market. Someone has a valuation. If you don't meet it, they're not going to sell you their player. And sorry, carry on.
Yeah, sorry, Darragh. So does that valuate? So if they haven't the phone hasn't rung at 9 o'clock on Tuesday night, does that valuation suddenly change if they're wanting to shift them out?
I don't think so. Because the problem you've got then is, where's the medical?
Mm-hmm.
You're leaving it late. You know what I mean? And when you're paying the kind of money some of these clubs want, you have to do a medical. And it has to be a medical at a clinic in London, and it has to be intense. It can't just be your physio, tapping them on the knees and
checking the box.
Yeah, no. So if a club comes back to you and they want, I don't know, £1 million, and they want big money, and it's 3 hours to go, yes, I think you can get subject to medical exemption and whatever else and possibilities, but it becomes very difficult. So that's unlikely to happen, unless something changes between now and us finishing the podcast and later on today. Look, surprises happen in football. We chased Norburn for 2 years. We had no luck, and out of the blue, we were given the nod that Shrewsbury would sell him. So that came out of nowhere. And as I said to you, I've been, he was very unlucky the other night because his ankle got done in the first minute. I'm not having a go at any West Brom players, but anyway, somebody accidentally stood on his ankle. So, and then he got booked. The first foul of the game, and the ref's out with his fucking yellow card. 7 minutes in. I don't know what referees want to ruin games so early. So, and that just, he was limited, but he's been brilliant up until, that game. And, like I said, that was a complete left field one where I got a call. We were then told, look, Shrewsbury would accept that. Player, okay, would he come? Yeah, this. And it all fell into place really easily. But like two summers in a row, we'd had bids turned down. Do you know what I mean? So you never know. I could get a surprising phone call later from players you've been in for, and the club might be in a position to go, look, we actually want to sell. Every football club has the right of refusal, the right of going, no, we're keeping our player. Some clubs do make me laugh. You're trying to buy their player, and they're like, no, we want, 2 million, or we want whatever else. And that's cool, that's fine. And then they go, by the way, we like one of your players, but we don't have any transfer fee, but we'll give you a 25% sell on. And you're like, get to fuck. You know what I mean? That makes me fucking laugh. It's like, well, we want millions, but we're pleading poverty when it comes to wanting your player. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like that. I fucking chuckle. It's like, do I have on my forehead? You know what I mean? It's like, anyway, that's, look, if you don't ask, you don't get. I guess that's how some clubs operate, and they try and take the mick, you know what I mean? And whatever, but that's all the fun and games of the market, isn't it? And the business, I've just had an email there from an agent, a player going, anything from such and such club, and, I need to know because I need to be on a flight tonight from, the agents abroad. to come in and do the deal. And I'm just like, and this is one of our players they represent. And I'm like, no, nothing today so far.
Now, all the deals that are going to get done today, as we record this on Monday and Tuesday, tomorrow on deadline day, would you say the vast majority are all lined up and they're just waiting for a piece, like a house, buying a house chain? They're waiting for one piece to drop and everything falls into place? Or is it clubs scrambling and, deals coming up that they might not even thought about yesterday or had on the table yesterday?
There'd be a bit of like the house chain things are great, what would the word be? Metaphor, it would be a great way of describing the transfer market to a certain extent. Like I'm saying about our central midfielder we want. That club, the Premier League club, have to get in some strength and depth in that area before they will release that player on a loan to us.
Yeah.
So that's like a knock-on. So
yeah, it's like one deal can happen and trigger effect is like 10 deals all through the chain happen.
Right. And we've been waiting. And to be fair to the Premier League club, they've been brilliant with us. And, agreed everything, but obviously their manager, and I respect that, until he gets what he wants in, he can't let that player go and so on. My worry is if that falls down last minute, it fucks us, and we're kind of like, but there's, the position we're looking for, there isn't a lot of premium players in that position, available. Of course, if you had untold millions or money or whatever else, yes, you could sign players like that, but a lot of them wouldn't want to come to Peterborough. One we were looking at, and there was potential of a deal if this other deal hadn't come off, and in the end West Brom rang up, and the conversation ended quickly because we're a massive football club and can pay a lot more wages, and they've just been in the Premier League, so Peterborough just get fucking blown out the window. So you have to be reactive to every situation. So there's going to be a percentage of clubs waiting for the chain effect. They have to sign him, I've got to sign him, and then and that's how it works. There'll be a lot of younger players being thrown out tomorrow by agents. You've already seen it today, where Prem clubs are like, look, go and get them game time, so their agents will be really all over the place. There'll be clubs who've been making bids for weeks and months, and the clubs who they've been making bids at might now decide today, tomorrow, well, look, we're not really getting what we want, but okay, we've exhausted it as far as we can. We'll now take such and such figure. So, agents, players will be very on their toes tomorrow. They'll be available. If there's anyone that's within that realm of moving, trust me, they ain't going anywhere. They're going to be close by, and their agent's going to be close by, and I'd imagine their phones are fully charged. They're going to make sure they got phone reception. So, because at any time I've had it where we've had players at gas stations waiting in the middle of the country in between here and there. And, we had it once. We sold Lee Tomlin in January, and we had deals lined up for, I believe it was Washington and Baldwin. And unless the Tomlin deal happened, I couldn't do the Washington and Baldwin deal. So it was kind of, like that. So, but as it turned out, it all worked out well in the end. Do you know what I mean? So, it's going to be fun. What about you guys? Are you doing any business today or tomorrow?
We're looking for that mythical striker that you talked of, because we're a little bit light up top. Lee Ankle got injured, so he's done his hamstring for a while. So we got to kind of replace that, and so the talk is that that's going to go to the wire. I know that there was, we've been having conversations with folks, and it's just about getting the right person. That's a tough one.
It is a tough one, and strikers, like I said to you, it's really funny because of the scarcity of good strikers, it allows agents of very average fucking strikers get above their station. I'll give you a story. Like last week when we were going through the list, we were identifying a couple of potential strikers. Do we need kind of insurance for Johnson Clark Harris? Come in and be insurance, back him up, compete with him, whatever. Because obviously he's still coming back to fitness. If anything happened to him, he's a certain style of striker, the only one we got in the building. So we were looking around, and we were looking at players in League One, players in League Two, and we weren't really making any phone calls as such, or to make bids. You just wanted to know, well, what would they want? Did it. And there was a player like a lot of clubs in League One are looking at in League Two, and I think he scored like fucking 8 goals last year, and I think and he's a League Two player at the moment, and his agent, had sent obviously this thing out to a lot of clubs, and it went to Barry, and it was like his wage demands, and it was like, oh, no word of a lie. It was $5,000 a week, the champ, $9,000 a week in the Prem, signing on fee, and £1 million release clause. I've never seen anything like my fucking life. Comes in League Two, with all due respect, and his agent's demanding of League One and Championship clubs You know, and he's got a 1-6 goal scoring record. Now he's not obviously a prolific striker; he's a different type, and he's not had a great 15 months. And he thinks he's like representing fucking Ronaldo, and you know the tenacity of, uh, of the audacity of the wage demand, but then the actual fucking release clause.
But then if he actually does anything,
Yeah,
we're
there's a
losing
release
again.
clause, you're fucking losing them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I was just like, I couldn't stop fucking laughing, and it summed up the strikers market where there aren't great strikers available. There aren't, you know, every year you'll have 4 or 5 that are in demand, but there aren't. That's the market. That's the way it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, look, and what you can then do there is you make bad decisions, and you sign players that aren't competent or capable. You know, out of panic almost, and I'm certainly not panic buying and doing panic business. Not a fucking chance. So
Yeah, you see some players linked, and they're only linked, so there's probably nothing in it at all. But you know, 3 goals in 21, or they got 5 in 40 or whatever, and
yeah,
you're just thinking that's uninspiring.
100%. And when you see the figures, and you know, like I'd argued in the summer, Mo Isa was unbelievable value for money for any of the big clubs in League One, because I knew he'd score 20, 25 goals, and he's almost guaranteed to get you in the top 6. Stands, I think he's the second leading goal scorer in League One. He's got 3 goals in 4 games. And I was amazed. One of the so-called big horses in League One who wanted to get up didn't come in and do that deal. Fair play to MK Dons doing a deal, but you know that I was scratching my fucking head, and I'm scratching my head even further now when I see some of the players who aren't even half the player he is, and some of those valuations on those players, and going, what the fuck, you know? But that's the market. So let's see who blinks, you know, today and tomorrow. And it'd be funny if I see that player I'm talking about, if he does go to a club, I'll be thinking, my God, I hope that club hasn't had their pants pulled down. You know what I mean? Like, fucking hell. Do you know what I mean? It's, yeah, weird.
You know, how stressful is it for you the next 24, 48 hours that everything falls into place?
Well, stressful. I'm not stressed. I've been doing it a long time. I'm tired, you know, but I'm not tired because I've been away from my family for so long, and I'm finally going home in a couple of days. So I'm tired. I'm at the end of it now where I'm really tired. There's been a lot of work gone in over the summer. So I'm a little bit burnt out. I need a break now for a few weeks. Stress, no. Of course, you know, you want the perfect window, but there's really no such thing as the perfect window. So you have to be reactive. So if we don't get the 4th midfielder, yes, there'll be an element of stress. Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? I'll be distraught if that deal didn't happen. Because of the patience we've shown, and because we've waited and waited and waited. And some would say, well, that's foolish, but you know, such is the importance of that position and that joint group.
You didn't want to go for second best when you had a chance to go for what you wanted.
We want that player. We think he'd make a complement to the 3 we have. They all have different individual abilities and attributes that we feel works very well for our squad and the formations we want to play. So I'd be gutted if that didn't happen. If someone comes in and beats us on him after we've agreed everything, then I'll be scorched earth tomorrow night. I'll be scorched earth. I'll be like a bitter ex-lover. Do you know what I mean? I'll just like go scorched earth. Yeah, absolutely. So let's wait and see.
And you're in the Sky studio tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm on Sky, I think at 8 o'clock. So an hour. So yeah, looking forward to that. There's, you know, to be fair, I didn't really want to do it, but there was 4 companies wanted me on there, which is nice to be wanted for deadline day. So I threw it out there and said, whoever pays the most gets me, you know, for an hour. So fair play to Sky, you know. So yeah, so they got me for an hour, and they're always good to me when I go there. So I guess I'll go there and enjoy it for an hour and be amongst it while it's all happening.
So let's talk briefly about the games at the weekend. You were on Sky on Saturday night. Lost 1-0 last minute. Well, last minute was like 5 minutes into injury time, wasn't it?
95th minute.
Yeah, stuck a punch.
Yeah, listen, we've done that to so many teams. So, you know, I think, was it 4 home games? We scored in the 96th minute against Lincoln. We scored 110th minute against Derby. We've conceded in the 95th minute against Cardiff, and we've conceded in the 95th minute against West Brom. So what you're seeing there is the ruthlessness of the championship. And yes, I feel bad for our players, but they're going to have to, you know, grow up and get on with it, because that's the league you're in now. You snooze, you lose. You blink, you get fucked. So, you know, if you don't play to the whistle, that is what can happen. Now, in isolation, if you look at the goal, it's we're up the pitch attacking. It falls to Harrison Burroughs. Unfortunately, he loses his fucking footing. because otherwise he wins the ball and goes that way, and a whistle 20 seconds later. It's small things. The player broke. Dan Butler can't stop the cross. I think it was Frankie who was fucking unbelievable on the night. God bless him. Didn't have his man, the centre back, who got in front of him and scored. I felt for the goalkeeper. I felt for Dan Butler, and I felt for Frankie Kemp. So I thought the three of them were tremendous. The goalie was, I'd said in the previous podcast what Christie had to be. He was as aggressive as he could be. And I thought he showed all the good tangibles he's actually got deep down. He can be a dominant goalkeeper at this level. And I don't care if you're a dominant goalie who makes a mistake, just come and do it. And I liked everything he did in that game. And to be fair, we'd spent a lot of analysis last Tuesday, the set piece coach, the management staff, I was there, we were going through it all. And we came up with a game plan for the long throws. And we came up with it, it was fascinating to be part of it and see it all. And the key was having players up the pitch and emptying the box. Because what I'd noticed when I was going through stuff with my scouts were, the goals we conceded against Cardiff, we congested our box with 22 players. When you put 3 up out of that, they have to put 4 back. So suddenly now, there's only, I don't know, count up the players. There's a lot less than 20 odd players. And the goalie basically can then see it. And then we designated one player to dominate the ball. Don't take a man, take the ball. And basically Johnson Clark Harris's job was to do that. And he won every fucking header. Every throw in the can. And it was relentless. Look, West Brom were relentless. Do you know what I mean? It's you've seen it. The throw-ins are better than corners. Because they just got big guys, they're relentless, they throw the fucking ball 30, 40 yards, it comes in with pace, it's chaos. Key was win it. Get it up the pitch, because we've got players who can score on a counter. And analysing the game yesterday, we had 4 breakaways where we should have scored 2 goals. Of course you'd like all 4, but that never happens. But we had 4 golden opportunities where we had 4 against 3. And unfortunately, every time we chose the wrong pass, the wrong option. And if we hadn't, we would have done what we did against Cardiff, and we would have won the game. But would have, could have, should have. I said it in my Instagram yesterday. I don't criticize West Brom for the way they play. I don't criticize them for the physicality, the long throws, all of that crap. Each to their own. It works for them, and they'll probably get promoted. So they came and they won. And we can all cry about the game, and we can bitch and whinge and whatever else. But don't bitch and whinge and cry. Go and win. Go and win. That's the best way to deal with that. Go and win. So I don't want to talk about how great we were. My wife even said it. You were brilliant. They were in the Premier League. And I'm like, listen, I don't do pats in the back. And that's great you've said that. And I understand where you're coming from. And this isn't a pity party. I want everyone to get their L plates off. Because, to be told you're wonderful and you're great, but you keep losing. Well, that's fucking nothing. That means diddly shit. Well, that's great. You know what I mean? It's like, you've invited the prom queen to the prom. And she's saying you're gorgeous, you're beautiful, you're sexy. But, maybe next year, and then goes with someone else. It's like, listen, there's no interest to me. You don't get the prize, do you? So the prize playing football is winning. And the other night, as good as we were, we lost our concentration, for 5 seconds. We lost the game with pretty much the last kick. And we came away losing our unbeaten home record. And we're really good at home. And yes, of course, everyone expected West Brom probably to win that game 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. But we're a fucking good football team. We're better than that. And our players, as they believe in themselves more and get the confidence in there. And when I say L plates, I mean the naivety.
Yeah, it's like you're going to be on it for the every single second of that game.
Concentration, focus, belief, desire. Now, I couldn't question the desire, the hard work. I could always say they could be more confident. Our players have to be confident that they belong. They have to be confident that they can do really well at this level. They don't need to look over their shoulder. They don't need to talk about surviving. All right, we have good footballers who have been together for a long time. It's the best group I've had in 15 years, and I've had some promotion teams. But it's the best group of togetherness because they're together. And every time they're knocked and every time they're doubted, they win. And that's what they've done consistently. And they're fucking good at home, and they won't always be great away, but they'll win away. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm like, all right, lads, L plates off. You championship players now. Get on with it. And don't bellyache and moan about losing to West Brom. Go and fucking beat West Brom at their place. That's what you got to do. So, look, I might sound like a lunatic, but that's what I think.
Do you think that the last, you've had, 4 or 5 games, maybe you've got the international break coming up, you kind of get chance and the players get a chance to look back and realize that they do belong because, it's not, you had the Luton game that was, out of the gates and, maybe that was just one of those games that was.
We're crap early.
Yeah.
Forget it. Luton get crap.
But since then, you've had some tough games and you've pretty much held your own and shown that you deserve to belong there.
We've had 5 games, and you'd probably dare say 4 to 5 teams would be top half of the championship. matter what people say about Derby, we're the only team to beat them. Cardiff will definitely be top half. West Brom will be a promoted team. And Luton, I still think, will be top half because they have now a pretty good championship squad after 3 seasons in the champs. So if you look, and Preston again now have won again, and they're no mugs either. So if you look at all the teams we've played, bar Luton, we've never been out of a game. Even Preston, we were pretty flat, but we had a great chance from 2 yards to score, and we didn't. And so final kick of the game, we're in on goal again. So it's those little inches and margins that make the difference. But no, we've never been out of a game. West Brom didn't play us off the park. Cardiff didn't play us off the park. Derby didn't play us off the park. Preston had a period where they were brilliant in the first half, and then we came back in. So we will learn and we will grow. And trust me, people will not like coming to our place. And if they think we're mugs and we're like fucking pushovers, they're in for a fucking rude awakening. So I just want my players to look at those 5 games and go, fuck, we could be sat here in 7 points and sitting in 11th in the league. And, unfortunately, our naivety has made us sit in 4 points and lower in the league. So now we've come out of the international break and, the games always get easier. You got Sheffield United next. So, best team in the fucking league, probably, away from home. Great, bring it on because they're the games you want. It's why I spent years trying to get back in the league. So I'm not frightened of it. I embrace it. And you want to test yourself against the best. And God bless my manager. He's right. He's had 5 promotions in 15 years. He deserves respect. And he's going to do well in this league, as will we.
Now, there was some shenanigans on the touchline towards the end, and I'd be remiss if not to ask you about them. So for folks that didn't watch the game or didn't hear, there was some handbags over towels. And I think were the West Brom supporters throwing in like hoodies and things like that for them to dry the ball on? What was going on?
An area of the ground where there was one fan and his daughter, and she kept giving her hoodie to the player. Our steward could have stopped that. They didn't, but it is what it is. It happened. But the problem was, it wasn't about that. It was the guy took like 30 seconds going over there, taking the hoodie, drying the ball, going back again. There was so much time wasted. That's where the injury time came from. That's probably but I don't care. If that's what they do, they do. I'm not complaining to the EFL. At the end of the day, we didn't concede from a long throw. We didn't concede from a set piece. We covered all those bases. So I actually wanted them to have long throws because I felt our best way of scoring was countering that. So every time they had one, I'd said to everyone all week, embrace them. Because if we embrace them, we can score. So, that didn't bother me.
Own the ball. And
Correct. Win it, own it, counter on it. That's how you're going to hurt them. So that didn't bother me. The manager, of course, there was needle on the sidelines. Look, West Brom's manager is a big fucker. He's an imposing fucker. Not for me, because I'll be the same size of him. And obviously at the end, I think there was like a lack of handshake, or there was 2 fingers pointed over, and then it was about, we had 2 penalties, but I refuse to believe it was that, because you've just won a game. You're not going to be moaning about 2 penalties. So I think he basically gave the finger over. It happens. I couldn't care. My manager didn't take kindly to it, and then they turned into a bit of needle between them. It fucking happens in games. So I said to my gaffer, look, you can get upset all you want. The best way of dealing with that is fucking beat them at their place, as hard as that might be. But that's your only way. You're always going to have battles with other managers. Do you know what I mean? So I think my manager's point was, do these teams expect us to roll over because we're Peterborough? It's almost like, they have a divine right to come and win at our place. And I don't think the West Brom fans feel like that. I think they're a very good bunch. They were pretty respectful. There was a good crowd there of 2,000 of them. So it was a good atmosphere. And they know, they've been in the lower leagues, they've been in the champ, they've been up in the Prem, they've been yo-yoing. They know how difficult football is. It doesn't matter who you play. If you're not on your game, you're going to get beaten by anybody. So what happened between them, I'm sure it'll be forgotten by the time. But look, he's an intense manager, the West Brom manager. My manager's intense. He's Scottish. He wants to win. And I think his point after the game was, look, the guy's, been in the playoffs once in England, with all due. And I don't think Darren gets enough credit because, like I said to you, he's had 5 promotions. Only been in management 15 years, and 33% of that's been successes. So, he's won 5 promotions and he's had 1 playoff defeat. So that's 6 campaigns. Plus he's won a cup. So that's 7 campaigns out of 15. That's pretty good. And he's looking around and he's seen a lot of managers get jobs, and big jobs. And I'm not saying my manager wants those jobs, but I feel for him sometimes because it's like you get a flavour of the month who gets a job, but they haven't won anything. I can name 4 managers who are managing massive clubs that have been around. They haven't won fucking nothing. And, so, but my gaffer is, he's Peterborough through and through. So, he loves our football club. So he's just showing passion. and he's fighting his corner. I'd rather that than him coming out and being all fucking humble and like, oh yeah, magnanimous and they're no, come out and show a bit of fucking fire. Because at the end of the day, he's going to need that this season, and he's going to need to get his players fired up. And listen, I got good staff. I'm not worried about that. I've got, I've always said this: really good team on the pitch, really good team off the pitch. Big 2 weeks for them. Big 2 weeks because for us now, the next 2 weeks is about fitness. Because we've had our issues, and that's been addressed. And you're going to see a different Clark Harris in 2 weeks. You're going to see a different Marriott in 2 weeks. You're going to see hopefully a different Dembele in 2 weeks, where all the knocks, the issues are gone. You're going to see fitter. You're going to see leaner players. There's going to be weight coming off some of them. You're going to see Jack Taylor coming back at an optimum now that he's back from his hamstring issue. You're going to be a few weeks away from Beavers returning. That's the wish over the next 2 weeks, where we also have a couple of under 23 games these players will play in. So we'll be in better shape the other side of that international. That's always been the goal.
Well, meanwhile, we had a day to forget. So we lost 2-0 down at Leyton Orient and played like the worst days of last season. So, hoping that that's just one of those days and we move on. And
Orient good. Were Orient good under Kenny Jackett? Were they a good team?
I think that Kenny Jackett did a really good job of neutralizing us.
Okay.
So, it's not like you looked at Leyton Orient and thought, "Well, that's a good team," but I think it was a good management performance to know. Yeah, I mean, he just, he got his tactics spot on, I think, for just stopping us, and it frustrated us, and we were just getting nothing out of the game, and we conceded when we then changed formation, and players didn't really know where they should be for a couple of minutes, and so there were a couple of gaps, and that led to the first goal, and there was really no way back.
Right. So, and obviously you've lost Leanne Giles, so that's a concern because you've got Cook as your only other striker.
Yeah, so we got Andy Cook. We brought in Caelan Lavery as a backup, and we don't really have anything else, as a up top. So we definitely need to get somebody in.
Yeah, I mean, what was the most concerning thing for you? No plan B?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we know that we're, injuries down the spine will have a really big impact on the season, and so I think that's the biggest thing. Is like if you got your starting 11, then I think we'll do well against anybody.
Yeah.
Injuries, but I also think that so in the after match comments, Derek Adams talked about maybe giving the players more leeway and more trust than what he may ordinarily have. Not that he wanted to, but he wanted to give them the opportunity to kind of figure it out on themselves, and he learned a lot about the team in doing that. And so, expect in on Sundays, no light sessions on Mondays. I think that they're going to be working harder, and we'll just see if it was a one-off.
Yeah, big discipline. Yeah, well, look, that's the key now is how to react, because what I found, like last year in particular, getting promoted was, we had a couple of hockey defeats and we'd always react.
Mm-hmm.
We'd lose maybe 2 and then we'd react. I think our worst run was losing 3 and getting embarrassed on TV, losing to a non-league team in the FA. But we reacted very well to those setbacks. Just when you thought we'd go under, that's what I'm saying about a good group. The sign of a good group is they don't go under.
Mm-hmm.
They come back from that and they go bang. You know what I mean? So that'll be key for you to see how the old school mentality manager hardcore on the training ground, if they react to that or if they take this to that. Yeah. So that'll be when are you playing next Tuesday or?
We got Lincoln in the whatever it's called now, Papa John's.
Right, okay. So that's different.
Yeah, then we got Walsall at home on Saturday.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game, and obviously you're going to have the Valley Parade faithful, fucking 16,000, 17,000 people. So that's almost like you're 1-0 up every time you fucking step out of that. So that'll be an interesting game. I might watch that actually. Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to being one of them, one of the 17,000 there. Finally, be the first game since a Rochdale friendly in 2019 that was abandoned at half time for a waterlogged pitch.
Oh Jesus! Well, listen, has Ryan upgraded you? Is he giving you director's box tickets?
We'll see when we get there. No, Ryan's taking care of us, so we should be good.
Good. Well, that's exciting. That's like being back and have your kids been there before?
They have, yeah. I mean, our oldest, their first game was away at Brentford when he was like 7 months old. So, ever since we've had the kids and we've been coming back, we'd go to the football and they've been along with us. So,
How does your business adapt to it? Like being American and whatever else. Like how does she, buy into it with you?
How does how does my wife buy into it? Yeah, I mean, she's obviously saw how passionate I was about it, and she's been very supportive of all that, and has learned probably more than she ever imagined that she would do about football. But she's really supportive, and she'll go along, and
Does she enjoy it?
yeah,
Yeah, she does good.
and I think, well, she probably enjoys it more for hope. She enjoys the wins more for what it means to my mood for the rest of the day than it does for getting 3 points.
Imagine being married to an owner.
I
Never
know.
mind.
But it's nice, we've got some goals out here in the garden in Florida, and the kids are always playing, and they're always wanting to be Bradford City players. So that's always nice, and they've not. We've taken them to Orlando a few times. After the Euros, they've been talking about wanting to be Harry Kane and Jordan Pickford for a bit, but they enjoy falling, and they really enjoy going to live games. So
good. Well, who are you buying? Who's Bradford buying? Come on, give me a name.
I have absolutely no idea.
No inside juice.
No, the route we talked last week. Who was it we talked about? The Omar Bogle. There was nothing in that, which seems like that wasn't a bad thing. I haven't really heard any other names. I hear that we're working hard and to have faith, but I haven't been given any names.
Fair play. Do you think it'll be a loan from a Premier League club, or will it be a Football League player?
I think we're open to both, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if it's going to be a loan. Get a loan until Christmas and see what happens. But I feel like when we do that, it's just a crap shot. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, of course. Oh, fascinating. Interesting. And then what else? Carry on.
Yeah, so that's it for us. I mean, let's go into the Premier League for a few minutes and actually talking on transfers. So Harry Kane is staying. That was a little bit of a turn up, I think, for everybody. I wonder whether that was always the intent, or whether the pushback, or I wonder what it was that drove that decision to stay.
I think Daniel Levy probably drove the decision with the owner, Joe Lewis. They probably wanted to put a line in the sand and go, no, you're not getting your move.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think, listening to Pep Guardiola, the way he spoke about Levy, it doesn't sound like that went over well with Man City. So I think basically, Daniel Levy was the one who stopped it. And I think Kane knew that he had no choice. There was no. So at the end of the day, he's just going to get on and put his head down. And obviously, look, he's not going to be worth 150 million next summer.
Mm-hmm.
20-9. So it's fascinating. Interesting window. Mbappe could go to Madrid.
Yeah. Who supposedly had no money, which is why they needed the Super League.
Listen, absolutely. But they've not been as bad as everyone else. The Bernabeu is about to reopen. They've got a lot of sponsorship. They'll have funding for that deal. Mm-hmm. They'll be PSG over 4 seasons for the deal. So that'll be, like I said to you before, if that's 180 million, that's 30, 40 million a year. They've sold players to cover that. That's not an issue. Man City could have done the deal with Kane because they've sold ancillary players. They've sold younger players. They've had the Sancho sell on. Ronaldo's gone back to United. United's share price went up 8%.
It's like 330 million at one point. It went up, didn't it?
Yeah,
on the day.
The commercial value alone covered the deal.
Yeah.
So I had an inside scoop on it. I knew it was happening because obviously it was Darren and obviously his dad speaking. Ronaldo. So that was a fascinating one. And then you got poor old Jurgen Klopp. He'll end up with a surplus profit of 4 million in the transfer market. I'm a Liverpool fan, and I'm watching Chelsea with Lukaku. I'm watching Arsenal be the biggest spenders. I'm watching Spurs turn down 130 million for Kane. And still sign players. I'm watching United bring Ronaldo in, Varane in, Sancho in. I'm watching City spend 100 million on Grealish. And then you got Liverpool. And like I said to you, they've got a tired front line.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this.
You've been saying this for 12 months.
I have, and that's my concern. And they're losing 2 of them in January for a few games. And you're watching Saturday, and Firmino for me is a busted flush. I've been saying this, and I don't know why they're giving him a new contract. He hasn't reached double digits for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
He went off at half time. I don't know why he started. And then obviously you've got Mane. For me, has not been the same player, and he was crap against Chelsea. So what has he got on the bench? Jurgen keeps covering for the owners and saying, I'm very happy with what I've got. And, he brings a left back on with 10 minutes to go to win a game against Chelsea. If that's happy with what you've got and you bring a left back on to change the game, they had nothing on the bench Once Jota had come on for Firmino, there was no attacking player they could bring on that was going to score the winning goal against Chelsea because they couldn't break them down. There was no way. So, he's a world-class manager. He's the best manager in the Premier League because of what he's working with. And he's the most loyal manager because he's covering for the owners. He knows deep down if you put a lie detector machine in front of him that he needs another attacking player. And I'm not talking about some 20 million punt or some player that no one's ever heard of from Germany or Italy.
Right.
He needs
a world-class player.
He's one world-class player in there, like they did with Van Dijk and the goalkeeper. Yeah. They got the Coutinho money. He needs, and look what he does every time he brings a world-class player in. They need one. And it was really apparent. Chelsea were brilliant defensively in the second half. I said at the time, worst thing in the world, going down to 10 men, it's going to kill the game. Because before that, it was a wide-open game. Liverpool always got a chance in Anfield in a wide-open game. But the minute Chelsea went to it was a 5-3-1, where there was basically 8 people defending at any stage. They could have stolen the game themselves, Chelsea.
Yeah.
So I worry for Liverpool this year. And FSG got away with them. I mean, again, like there's going to be a window where they're going to have a profit. A profit. I mean, this is just getting to the point where you're like, wow, you can have a go at the Glazers all you want. But for me, they keep bringing in world-class players.
It's like some of these American sports teams where, you think that what's the motivation to win? And there isn't a great deal of motivation to win for a lot of these ownership groups because they're just making money, and the fans are still showing up, they're still buying the shirts, the commercial revenue is still, it's not marginally, you're not going to get, it's not going to be a game changer, the revenue you get from winning the league versus finishing third, let's say. And so why bother? And that's what some of these American groups seem to.
I said this last year in a podcast, and it took a goalkeeper scoring a goal to get them to the Champions League. I said to you at the time, that decision not to bring in a centre-back in that January with all the injuries and whatever, they brought in a boy from the Championship, they brought in the boy from Germany, they weren't good enough, and they ended up having to play 2 youngsters back there. Then they were playing Fabinho back there. And I said at the time, if that leads to them not getting in the Champions League, Fenway have made a massive error because they're going to lose 60, 70 million in revenue from the Champions League. Players won't want to come because they're not in the Champions League. The knock-on financial effect for being fucking stupid and stubborn and not throwing out 30 million on a centre half at a time, they got lucky. And they're thinking they're going to get lucky again. I'll tell you right now, Man City, Man United, Chelsea, and you look at Spurs the way they've started because their manager's one of the best defensive-minded managers in the country with all the clean sheets. If Liverpool stumble and they lose 2 players, and let's say Mane's injured or Salah's injured or whatever else, they ain't getting top 4. And Fenway are going to be sat there with this wonderful football club not in the Champions League anymore. So be careful what you wish for, but get your fucking act together because it's about time they gave that guy a bit of support in the market. And he's got, for me, he's very loyal and he says he doesn't need players, but let's not kid ourselves. We all watched Saturday.
With Ronaldo coming over, was there ever any Man City interest, do you think, or was that manufactured to do a deal?
No, I think he was going to Man City, and Man United couldn't let that happen. So I think Man City were looking at a short-term thing because they'll probably be back in for Kane next summer, probably have, depending on what your man Reino, the agent, wants or whatever for Haaland next year. That'd be the real problem. And I think Man City felt they needed a number 9 per se, and Ronaldo could play that role. And is he worth the punt for a year? Yeah. Look, the money, 20 million in wages, paying 20 million for a fucking 36-year-old. Commercially, it makes sense. And for United, it makes sense. And to be fair, he's a winner. So he's going into the dressing room with younger players who haven't been winning trophies. They haven't been winning when it mattered. And he will probably help change that mindset, as will Varane. So I am, as a Liverpool fan, fucking sick to my stomach with some of the business United have done. We've run around giving contracts to players that we've already got. And, and I worry because we've had a golden period. And the one thing I don't want to do is piss off our manager where he lives.
Yeah, because then you're really screwed because he's papering over all the cracks.
Correct. Without him, I always said this, we're 6th or 7th.
Yeah, for Ronaldo, you talked there about the dressing room. That's almost as big for me as what he'll do on the pitch. Is you got all those youngsters who now know and will see every day what it takes to be the best.
We use it. Darren used it with our players. He saw Ronaldo train. He went to Spain. He did coaching lessons. He saw Ronaldo. He used it with our current players who want to have a day off and don't want to work out on a day off and don't want to do whatever else. This man is obsessive. I was on holiday in the Bahamas and he was staying in the villa next to me. This is in June a few years ago. And every morning my nanny used to come in and be all excited because she'd see Ronaldo doing his fucking ab crunches on the beach at 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And there he was running up and down the beach every day. This was on his holidays. The man is absolutely methodical. That's why he's got the body of a 29-year-old and why he could probably play till he's 40.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's an example because he's probably on his way to being a billionaire and he's still as hungry
Right.
as when he first came. And these young players who drink alcohol, who eat the wrong foods, who don't live the right fucking way, who think they're professional footballers need to look at that and go, what the fuck am I doing?
You said when we were talking about Harry Kane that if City got Harry Kane, they'd win the league by 10 points.
Yes.
Does the fact that they haven't and Man United brought in Ronaldo, does that close the gap?
No, Man United aren't winning the league. No disrespect. They haven't got the manager to win the league. So I've always said that. If Man United had a Klopp or Guardiola, they'd be winning the league. It's between Chelsea and City. It's a 2-horse race. United will hang around, but they won't win the league. And if I'm wrong, I'll apologise at the end of the podcast, but it's a 2-horse race. It's Chelsea and it's Man City. And it's Chelsea because they've got a brilliant manager and they've got an owner who brings in big players when needed. And Chelsea, if you look at the way they are, defensively, structurally strong, talent all over the pitch, best number 9 now in the Premier League, probably come in Lukaku and what he can do. So, because I think he'll have a better season than Harry Kane. And because of the Kane thing, and is there going to be a little bit of blowover and take a while for him to find his shooting boots and get going again? And also the way Nuno plays, Kane get the same amount of chances. So, Man City, Chelsea for me. I watched the Man City game. I watched Chelsea, Liverpool. Yeah, they're so far ahead of everyone else, in my opinion, that Liverpool will be in a mini title challenge for the top 4.
And I have a few questions that have been submitted over the past few days. Let's see. I'm going to start with Dan. Dan emailed us. He said, this is quite a long email, so I'm going to read this out. After Danny Ings' goal for Villa was credited to the work done by the set piece analyst, with each goal in the Premier League having been valued at being worth over £1 million, isn't there a compelling argument that game-changing analysts are significantly undervalued by the market?
Yeah, I believe in that. I believe in good analysts. At the same time, you don't want too many chefs to spoil the broth. And we brought in a set-piece coach in the summer. I pushed for it strongly because I knew how important the champ was. I'd analysed when I did my end-of-season report and looked at the championship. I'd analysed 6 teams that did really well, very comparable to us in size. And I presented a report to the manager and to my partners. And in there was what Barnsley and what Brentford done in set pieces last year. And those inches that we needed to make a difference. That was one suggestion. I also suggested a psychologist. 2 things I suggested: set piece coach, psychologist. The manager wanted to bring in someone he knew. He brought in, obviously, somebody who was obviously he'd want to go into coaching and do this job at a championship club. He'd finished playing, and basically, Andy Butler had come in quite late in the summer. So that for us is going to take time. But I like Andy. I think he's going to be very good. And, he's new to it. He was caretaker manager at Donny. But in his own right, he was a phenomenal defender. If you look at even last year, the statistics in League One, he was, still up there. All right, even though he was at the end of his career. And I think our Ricky J. Jones pretty much retired him in the final game of the season at Donny. He said he had sleepless nights after that game. It was Ricky's pace. And basically, I think he took himself off at halftime. But the point is, I do believe that analysts are changing the game. And I do believe more people, free kick specialists, throw-in specialists. Liverpool have a throw-in specialist. I'm not sure they're going to get paid big bucks. Like the guys say, the value of whatever else, because coaches get paid very well in the Premier League. They get paid well across. I think what it is for some of these coaches, it's going to be a way in. It's going to be a way in. Like Andy Butler's probably ambition is to be a first-team coach instead of just a set-piece coach, and then maybe manager. Maybe an assistant manager, who knows? You want to climb, you want to earn more money, you want to do well in your second life after playing. So I think you'll find down the line, like I know a couple of technical directors working at Premier League clubs used to put cones out in the training ground not so long ago for other clubs. Now they're technical directors of Premier League. But it's just a way in, a foot in the door, and it's a way to climb the ladder.
All right, I got a question from Luke, who's a posh fan living in Australia. He actually makes an assumption in the beginning of the question, so I'm going to rephrase this and just ask it as a question first of all. When bringing in a player, do you actually have to make certain stipulations in contracts about playing time?
No.
All right, so that was the question was essentially, he assumed that you may have to do that.
No.
And what would happen if a player was a flop and ended up not reaching those stipulations. And I wonder if, I mean, would you see that in a loan? Like if you're getting a loan player in from the Premier League?
Yeah, if you get a Prem loan in, that could be tied to the wages. So you pay less wages the more they play. But a manager should never have the pressure of having to pick a player based on a contract. That's not going to work. So that's like, I'm giving you a job to come to work, and I'm guaranteed you can sit and have your coffee all day, and there's no guarantee if your performance is good or bad. I'm still going to keep putting you out there and paying you the top dollar. It's not how it works.
How about related to contract extensions? Do you have, if you play 30 games, you're going to get an automatic year extension on your contract?
Yes, so you can have options built into a contract. I've done that sometimes, where if a player plays 21 games or 23 starts, half the season, it could lead to another year. It could lead to bigger wages. I've built that into some players this summer, who've come back to the club and, who, again, trying to get fit and trying to become the player. So it's like, okay, we can't pay you big bucks, but if you go and do it for X amount of games, year 2 becomes bigger bucks. Year 3 becomes bigger bucks. I am big on incentives. I'm big on goals per game getting paid, assists getting paid, clean sheets getting paid, going out and putting a performance and getting paid. So I've always been money's the motivator, you know what I mean, for players, and to get them over that, again, the posh players will only win a win bonus for being in the top 14. I wouldn't pay for failure. So, other clubs might be from 15th to 18th or whatever else, and I refuse that. It had to be top 14. Otherwise, you're not getting a win bonus. So, it's everyone has different ways of doing it. I fight with the committee. The committee is usually the captain, the vice captain, the manager, coming to me about what are the bonuses for the year, what are this, and I always have those negotiations about a week before the season starts. So I'm so confident in my team. I'm like, believe in yourselves. Top 14, you get paid.
Yeah, like 18th isn't good enough. You shouldn't be aspiring to get 18th.
I'm superstitious and refused any of those kind of numbers. A lot of clubs in the champ have different kind of position 17 to 20,
like
position.
A sliding scale of what the bonus is based on where you are.
No, I'm not looking that way. I'm looking that way because I have belief in my players. So last year in League One, I only paid win bonuses from Christmas onwards as long as they were in the top 6. If they were outside the top 6, I didn't feel it was merit in paying them to win a football game. So again, and that's what I ended up with, nearly £1 million in bonuses for getting promoted.
Which you'll take that to get promoted.
Yeah, I took insurance against that as well. Yeah. So you've always got to be a little bit ahead of the game.
Now, Liam, who's a pretty disgruntled Birmingham fan by the sounds of it, says, I think the whole country now knows the complete disarray in which my football club is being run. We've got 2 stands closed, season ticket holders being put in a ballot to go to a game they've already paid for.
Where's this?
Birmingham.
Oh, Jesus, right.
Yeah, and that, let's see, they were told they would be successful for one of the first 2 league games, but there were many fans who have been unsuccessful in a ballot for tickets when they've already paid. Seems like a kind of strange carry-on. And Liam's question is essentially, what are your opinions on how our club is being run? Because the fans are absolutely livid.
I didn't know. I didn't know the issues ran that deep. I know there was issues with performances on the pitch. I know there was issues with that, ownership. There's been changes this summer. But actually, I think, good things on the horizon because your manager's a good manager since he's come in there. You just won your first game 5-0 away from home, 2 weeks ago, for the first time in years. They've asked for 5,000 tickets to come to our place, so the fans certainly come out. I'd have liked to see more West Brom fans and more Derby fans at our place. Cardiff fans, I'm going to forgive on a Tuesday night. But, on a weekend game, you'd like to see more fans. And obviously, you're on TV, so you have to, excuse Derby and West Brom fans a little. But I always banked on having 3,000 to 5,000 away fans. That's where your attendances go through the roof when you're in the champ. And the Brummy fans, Baz loves them because he always talks about them. He said to me, they've asked for 5,000 fans. I'm like, wow. So I didn't know, but I knew you had issues with the ground. You were building or doing some work at the ground. So there's issues over how many people. Look, even being all the disgruntledness, you've got a waiting list of fans who want to go see the game. So it can't be as bad as you think. Never as bad as you think. And it could always be a little bit better than you think. So I think, I don't know about the ownership. And I've always said I don't criticize other clubs who pay their bills. And as far as I know, Birmingham have always paid their bills. And I know it's got foreign ownership, and I think the Chinese owners are involved or whatever else, but I think they've always paid their bills. I think they've always, paid their wages. So, they've kept the lights on, and, you've got a new manager, and I think they're backing him. So, it'd be remiss of me to start picking holes in them. I apologize if that upsets the questioner, that he wants me to go full on the Birmingham ownership. I don't know enough about them to be so judgmental. When I know more, of course, I can have an opinion. But again, people in glass houses, you got to be careful when you're throwing stones. These are fellow owners. I know how difficult it is being a football club owner. It's like I said to the Derby fans not so long ago: give Mal Morris a break. He's had a tough couple of years, and but he's made the playoffs 4 out of 7 years or whatever else. So put a lot of money in, and there's worse fucking owners out there. Trust me, and we've seen some of them come and go. So I'm hoping they resolve the ballot thing, because it's not fair. Fans aren't getting in to see the games, and we had issues like that last year with what COVID games you could come to and not. And I'm just happy all our fans are back.
Talking about owners, there was something in the Athletic, I think it was last week, talking about at least one of the championship reps pushing for licensing of owners, or licensing before you have the ability to make an offer to buy a football club. I see folks won't be able to see this who are listening. I see you rolling your eyes. What are your thoughts on this idea of you need to be approved in some way, shape, or form before you can even start kicking the tires?
I don't know, because would that stop someone like me buying the club? I don't know. I'd put myself as a good owner. If I wasn't that posh, I'd buy another club. Would those conditions expel me from buying a football club? Would I be lost as a good owner to buy another club? I presume some clubs would want me to buy them if I was available. So it just depends on what the conditions are. I don't know. At the end of the day, what do you want to know about an owner? They haven't got a serious criminal history past or issues or whatever else. There's no outstanding fucking warrants by the federales for them. They've got the money to buy the club that goes in escrow. They've got enough money to cover the club for 2 years. They've got a plan in place. It can't be as difficult to get good owners. I mean, yes, of course, if there's a load of companies and you don't know who's behind the companies, then you've got to ask deeper questions. But the real owner should always be able to come forward to the EFL and speak to the powers to be and go, I'm the real owner. Here's my bank account. Here's my plan for the club. I'm just thinking if I was buying a club again, here's what I want to do. Yes, I'm buying a club and there's a company structure to buy it for tax reasons, but it's me. What do you need to know about me? There's my assets. There's my history. I'm married. I've got children. You want to know what I got in the bank? Great, but that's got to be private. Here you go. How am I going to run the club? Let me show you my young and hungry policy. Oh, by the way, there's 15 years of history of it, and so on. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but a license, fuck knows.
All right, so we have a couple more questions. One is from Chris on Twitter, and this is actually related to Bradford's game at Mansfield, which was not this weekend, the week before. I don't know if you saw it, but after the game, Nigel Clough was interviewed, and he really laid into one of his players who was marking. Yeah, he was marking. He was the marker on Charles Vernam, who scored one of the goals for us and set up another. He basically laid into him and said, "Well, they're best friends, so that's why he didn't put a challenge in." And that if the interviewer asked him if he has any regrets on his team that day, and he said, "Yeah, my regret was that I picked him." And I just wonder if managers should be calling out individual players in those kind of interviews, or whether that should be stay behind the dressing room door.
Yeah, I mean, that's strong. You could lose a player very quickly. Lose a couple of games, you could lose a dressing room. There's a dressing room think who you going after next. And the one thing I know about football is that they want a manager fired, the manager gets fired. And because they've started well, Mansfield. I'm surprised. I know it was a bad result, but I'm surprised he did that. Maybe it's in the Clough DNA, so his dad would do. But my manager, I don't think, to my knowledge, has ever called out one of our players like that in that way. He might get angry. A lot of my manager's whole thing would be always a lot behind closed doors. He probably got angry over the years if I've done a bit of public shaming of a player here and there. I've got the fucking right when I'm paying the bills. But as I've got older and more experienced, you're kind of like, yeah, you got to be careful, because these players 15 years ago were a lot hardcore. There were a lot. Players nowadays are a lot softer. It's a very different environment. We talk about woke-topia and young people growing up and not as being tough and not taking criticism well. Mourinho would be an example. Jose Mourinho's management style 10 years ago, 15 years ago worked and got the best out of his players. His management style nowadays upsets these younger players like it has done at United and Spurs. And these are generational differences. We always say the generation before, tougher. The generation now, woke-topian. And that is therein lies the issue. And I want to bring my kids up with an older generation mentality, because too many young people are soft as fuck. and they cannot take a bollocking. They can't take a telling off. They take it hard. Public criticism. I'm the guy when I got that when I was in sales when I was younger, and my manager, I'd fucking respond, and I'd respond hard. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the way it goes.
All right, last question from Steve on Twitter. If you could change one decision you've made in your years at Posh, what would it be?
One decision. Firing my manager both times.
Yeah.
So one decision, 2 times. The same one, both times. Mistake.
All right. And you came back a third time.
There you go.
And here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, younger me, more patience.
Yeah.
The second version of me should have backed him, not the team.
Mm-hmm.
So, be careful what you wish for. He's the biggest asset our football club has, with all due respect. Players come and go. Your manager's your manager. The people around him, are important. But the players, with all due respect, they're moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they go out and win football games. But you get more of them. You sell some. You do whatever. Your manager is that constant. So, I have more appreciation for the job the managers do, and they come into the club. So that'd be the thing I'd change.
And isn't that then crazy when you see managers only last 6 months or 3 months or 9 months, that churn, you're looking for a stroke of luck to get yourself out of a bad situation when you keep on changing your manager every 3 months or every 6 months or 12 months, or whatever it is.
You want to give more time, but look, I've been guilty as anyone. I've fired managers quickly. Do you know what I mean? So it's not always been results driven. I've fired managers who are 6th. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they're just not a fit for your club.
Yeah.
I've found, when you get a good one, back them, help them, and work with them. Yeah. So that's where I am with that.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go so you can continue doing your deals and seeing if you can get those across the line. Thank you, as always, for your time today, Darragh. And everybody, please keep sending those questions in through Twitter, through the email address, contact@hardtruthfootball.com. We'll get to as many of them as we can during the show. Until next week, talk to you all then.